Hello everyone, that was loud. Welcome to the first of 3 question times for this year's sabbatical and part-time officer candidates. We are doing 4 SAB positions tonight. So we're going to start with sports officer, then societies, postgrad, and we're going to finish with education. So all candidates are going to start with a set 1-minute speech, and then I'm going to ask some preset questions, and then we're going to open it up to the floor. So please could I invite Charlotte to do her speech?
Hi, I'm Charlotte, your current sports officer, rerunning for the role. Sport has always been an integral part of my life, so to come to uni and play sport here was just a natural progression. I've been lucky enough to be captain and president of a sports club while I was a student, and have had the honour of representing all clubs as sports officer for the past year. In that year, I got disability sports at varsity, as well as more women's sports than before. I introduced a 10 grand hardship fund for sports clubs to get them out of debt. I got Reshaping Sport recognised as one of the SU's top 10 priorities, and was asked to independently review Bucks trans athlete policies alongside our PTOs for the entirety of the UK. If you re-elect me for a second year, then I will open the hardship fund to any student to assist in paying sports federation fees. I will continue talking to marginalised communities to make sport as accessible and inclusive as possible for people of all backgrounds as part of the Reshaping Sport campaign. I want to increase the system where we can easily get non-Bucks sports club results submitted so we can shout about their success, and I will lobby the university to increase Bucks funding so we can actually afford transport to matches. Remember, raise the bar, vote for Shah.
Then Alexander to make the speech.
Hi, I'm Alex, I'm running for sports officer, and I can't say I've done sport all my life, but at the end of my second year, I had a bad issue with mental health, and it was through sport that I truly found myself at this university and found where I felt I belonged. And as such, that really shapes my manifesto and how I want to give back to the university as a whole. So mental health and raising awareness are key points of my manifesto. I really think that issues such as homophobia, racism, accessibility, they deserve more than the set weeks that we occasionally give them, and I'd like to see more work for that. I also believe in putting sport back into the hands of the students where it belongs, with things such as making it more affordable, getting more people trained in courses like first aid and umpiring, because at Warwick we're all part of one community, and the more people that get in sport, the better, to be honest. So vote for Sachs, take sport to the max.
Okay, before I ask some questions, has anyone on the floor got any questions? Yeah.
So Bucks funding has been a massive issue for the university this year. What are your plans to combat this?
Okay, could Alexander answer that first, please?
Yep, so I definitely think it's been an issue. I'm a member of both, quite several Bucks clubs, and they tend to have issues with, like Shah said, transport is a big one. We've had to cancel so many fixtures because it just can't be organised. I think the way to tackle this is I want to get sport in the university strategy for 2030, because once the university as a whole starts to realise that sport should be a core component of every student's life, they'll start to put money into it like they are with research and the education side. So I really think it's also working with the people at Warwick Sport to try and channel some funds that are sent to areas that may not needed and are unnecessary, and working with the university as a whole to get it where it needs to be. Thank you.
So transport is, probably one of the most obvious issues where Bucks funding is lacking, because Bucks funding is Bucks funding is a big issue for the university. It's not easy to change it overnight. It takes lobbying higher up than Warwick Sport because we get our Bucks money in a grant from the university. So you have to go to the finance director, to the commercial director, and you have to show that sport means something. Yes, transport is where it's affecting students most directly, but it's really embarrassing when teams come here and we can't put a team out, or we can't enter a team to match the facilities that we have, because we can't afford to enter a women's football third team, for example, or we can't afford to enter a dodgeball team, which is becoming Bucks this year. And we have international dodgeball players here, and we won't be able to afford to put a team in because we literally don't have the funding for that, and we go into debt so much, which is why transport is such an issue, because that's where we claw back our money. So we really need to increase funding.
What experience do you have that makes you specifically qualified for the role of sports officer? And could Shah go first, please?
I'm currently the sports officer, so I would say that gives me some experience at being qualified for the role of sports officer. This year, I said some of my successes in my opening speech, so I won't go over them again, but I think that what I have managed to do this year is really build relationships with the university. I've got a working relationship with the director of Warwick Sport. I've built relationships with people at the university, like I say, the commercial director, the finance director. I'm part of university committees such as the Health and Safety Group and the Employability Skills Working Group. And I understand that sports officer isn't just about sport. Like, you will have to take on other areas of the university. You will have to, jump in with projects with the other sabbatical officers. And I think that this year has really opened my eyes to the range of activities you'll be getting up to as a SAB. So, yes, and also I love sport and I continue to play sport every week, which is great.
So I believe I'm qualified because as a member of multiple clubs, both large and small, I have met quite a lot of people who are across a wide range of sports, and I can hopefully say I'm friends with quite a lot of them. So I got a real first-hand feel of the issues that several clubs face at all levels of sport, big and small. And I also feel that in preparation for this role, I've met with the director of Warwick Sport, I've met with several key people in Warwick Sport, and I've talked through my manifesto to make sure it was truly doable and everything that I was saying was right for the role, and we've spoken about what would be expected and how to achieve that. And I thought they were very productive talks, and they went very well, and so hopefully gets put into action.
Okay, then one last question. Following Warwick's absolute thrashing of Coventry for the 30th year in a row, can you outline what plans you have specifically for varsity?
So specifically for varsity, I want to get more people involved in the promotional materials beforehand, because I know this year there were several members of clubs that I'm in that were quite upset that their varsity didn't feature in a video, which, quite frankly, it didn't have many clubs, really. People watched it and they didn't see themselves, like, not many people got as hyped. And I thought, there were new sports this year, such as esports, lots of other ones, dodgeball varsity, women's squash got a varsity for the first time. And I really think the way that you get people hyped for varsity and make it truly great is to make it so that they can relate to what they see in the run-up and make them want to go and watch it. So I'd like to get more clubs, big and small, involved in that regard. I'd also like to try and get clubs to do varsity-specific merchandising coordination with, if it's specifically clothing, with whichever vendor we have for clothing, or just little stickers or something to get people to come, because the more people that come, the better. And finally, I want to try and push for non-varsity sports to get some form of showing and push for their varsity, because mixed hockey had a varsity this year, and I didn't see it promoted anywhere really before the actual night itself. And I know several people in that club that were also disappointed. So ideally, the more people, the merrier.
So this year, obviously, like I said, we got disability sports at varsity, we got more sports involved at varsity than ever before. We did promo a lot of sports clubs. It's tricky to get all sports clubs involved in the video because of GDPR issues at the Sports Hub. It means you can only film on outdoor facilities and then use old footage, basically, of sports clubs from before there were GDPR issues. So next year I'd really like to increase the disability sport we have there, maybe getting wheelchair basketball instead of just seated volleyball, or alongside seated volleyball, and also to utilise the Sports Hub again, because I think the Saturday that we had there was amazing to have so many different fixtures going on in the zones. We can get more coverage from Raw. The coverage that Raw did was absolutely amazing. They really created such an atmosphere. I don't know if people watched the women's basketball coverage this year, but it was that was an amazing match, and it was really well live covered, and just creating a bigger vibe around it, food vans, all that kind of thing. And I think varsity is a great time, but I'm worried Coventry won't play us again, so.
I've got two questions. One, you said particularly Alex, you said you wanted to tackle racism and homophobia and so on in sports. How do you actually plan on doing that? And secondly, surrounding varsity, question for both of you particularly, what do you think there is a problem surrounding the fact that a lot of our celebration of varsity is just putting down Coventry and really just like being really shit to Coventry rather than actually about sports and doing things well, and how would you address that?
Okay, so the first question about tackling issues of discrimination in sport. So I want to expand the report and support system alongside the work the university is already doing. We've got report and support in place for sexual misconduct. We need to expand that towards all forms of discrimination and harassment. I also want to introduce in the Warwick Values Moodle, which 4,000 of 7,000 first years filled out this year when they joined the uni, to have sport-specific instances of discrimination, sexual misconduct, racism, homophobia, because that makes it really real, and it makes it something that resonates with students and easier to pick up on. Then when it does happen during the year, in those instances, they think back to the training, oh, I filled this in, this is what we do. The varsity issue about chants being classist and homophobic, all of that kind of thing. It is an issue, and yes, we had security at some events this year, and security did have to remove some supporters from Coventry side for things like that. And I know Warwick also are completely to blame for some of the chants that we say. It's not great. I think it's a general issue of sport stereotypes and a general issue in sport. So that is something that needs addressing. And like I say, just report and support systems, the Moodle, more training for execs around it, and debunking the myths, which is something I've been trying to do this year. Thank you.
So to address the first question, particularly what to do about issues such as homophobia, racism, I think firstly we need to work closely with the elected officers who represent those people in those communities, because at the end of the day, those were the chosen voices who I feel will have spoken to the people to get a real on-the-ground idea of what is just needed. And I think prioritising their voices more in discussions with sports and making them more known to sports clubs and making them more accessible, because then if there are any issues or any confusions, it's very easy to just go, oh, okay, then we've got someone who we can speak to solve this all and get it resolved as quickly and as easily as possible. And in regards to varsity, was it more like putting down was it how to stop it, or I think quite some of the promotions from Warwick as a whole this year, I very specifically remember there was an empty trophy case that was you're not going to get one. I did see that, and I just thought it's a bit rubbing it in. And I think at the end of the day, it's the nature of that sport itself, and I think it's perpetuated quite a lot in the. It's like, oh yeah, we're better than you. And I agree, it doesn't need to go any further than off that. Issues such as, I've heard chants over the weekend that I don't want to repeat. And thankfully those were reported, and I think it's about making it more known and more accessible to security to report if you hear anything or if you see anything that's really disturbing, and hopefully just in the meantime, in the build-up to varsity, whilst also promoting it, trying to remember at the end of the day, this is a showcase of how good we are as athletes, not about how bad Coventry are. We are great at Team Warwick. We need to boost ourselves more and focus on how we are a team than how Coventry are different. Thank you.